George Floyd. Um, I didn't know George Floyd until yesterday, or the day before yesterday, when I saw the horrific video footage of him being slowly killed. In front of my eyes, I saw a man being murdered. Not any man, but a black man. And I couldn't really believe what I was watching. I couldn't believe that this thing was really unfolding before my eyes. Yes, I've seen lots of YouTube footage of terrible incidents. We've watched that over and over again over the years, and we've become somewhat desensitized, I think, to it, and hope that this is the last time we ever witness anything like this. But after watching that footage from beginning to end, I can't describe how angry I feel as a black man, as someone that has tolerated so much rubbish in the last 62 years that I've been in this country. I've lived in this country, I was born in this country 62 years ago, and I've taken for granted the rubbish and the foolishness. I've taken for granted living through the 60s and the 70s and the sus law and the way in which we had to sort of run for our lives when threatened by the authorities, people that we should trust, when we weren't doing anything wrong. You could be standing in a street corner and a black van pull up with some police officers, and in you go, or you watch your friends just disappear, and you never see them again for a while before you know it, they're in jail, accused of sus. That's another thing. But going back to the real issue, we watched this man being slowly murdered in front of people in broad daylight. And this is what got me, is that this is the society that we live in. As much as there's been uproar, as much as people have lost their jobs, in reality, these guys felt they could get away with that, these police officers. And this is obviously a great challenge to many of us at this stage. But I think what we're all saying is enough, because there's four issues that really possibly five, but there's four main issues which I saw. First of all, that the way in which that man was being killed, an officer kneeling in the neck of a black man because he felt he had the right, the power over him. You could see the feeling of victory and triumph as he stood over another black man, and was crushing the life out of him. I don't know if that particular maneuver is something that they were taught or if it's something which is allowed, but yes, I can understand if someone is not being cooperative. I can understand if someone is just committed a heinous and terrible crime, probably murdered someone, shot someone, and yes, all hell breaks loose as they try to bring this individual down. But this man was there pleading for his life. Please, I can't breathe, please. They had him already cuffed, pleading for his life. So number one, he was pleading for his life. Number two, the camaraderie which I saw between police officers, where they all work as one unit. It was clear to anybody, to the other officers, that this man was in distress and possibly dying. But because of this unspoken code, or maybe it is something that they've agreed to beforehand, nothing was done to support or help this individual. Then on top of that, you watch the people, the bystanders, who are part of that culture and know that if they say one thing out of place, they will be shot dead. They know that. You can hear it in their voices. Please, bro, please. Okay, fine, we could say they should have been more outraged. They should have tried to do something, but they know that they would have been shot dead if they attempted to help this man as they saw the life being crushed out of him. That, to me, just tells us where we are as a people, as a black people, where we're in a society, in a democratic society, and we feel that we're free, but we're not free. We're not free to express ourselves. We're not free to uphold the basic human rights of just being alive. And then there's the way in which the ambulance, I don't know who called the ambulance or why they would call an ambulance prior to someone actually being in a position where they would need an ambulance, because he didn't need an ambulance before the police came. So the ambulance arrives. And while the neck is still being pressed down by the knee of this filthy individual, this police officer, and I can't find words to describe how I feel towards him. They feel for a pulse. Casually, they get off him. When I've watched the response of ambulance crews in this country and in other countries, I've watched people respond to someone who might have a life-threatening injury. They block off the road. They take out all of their gear. They try to resuscitate. Because even at that stage when he got off his neck, there was an opportunity to resuscitate him. But instead, they all work together to pick up this worthless individual, as it seems they've identified him as, and put him onto that stretcher like a dead dog they've lifted off the street. With his lifeless body, they dump him in the back of this ambulance, the ambulance crew working in alignment with the police officers. This is the life which we as Black people can identify with in reality. In reality. And you might say, well, it's not here, it's not in this country. Yes, it is. This is a worldwide pandemic, worse than COVID-19. This is how people of color are treated. And as a fairly large Black man, I've spent 62 years trying to fit in, trying to make myself small, trying not to be agitated when I see injustice, trying to be accepted. And now, as I race towards retirement, I'm expected to just shut up, be quiet until I leave this earth. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. That's not going to happen anymore. We as a people need to stand up and realize that this sort of thing cannot continue, this type of injustice, because it can happen to anyone. But the way I've seen Black people treated, I used to have a book called The Black Book many years ago, which cited all of the great things which Black people were able to contribute, especially during the times of slavery and post-slavery, and all of the terrible things that they endured. There's vivid pictures of Black individuals being lynched and burnt to death. And I'm just seeing the same thing happen all over again. As a child, I remember riding down a street that I shouldn't have ridden down, according to local law. Get out, you blackie, get out. Didn't have any effect on me then. I just turned my bike around and got out, okay? We used to give as good as we got. Walking down the road as a child, this white man comes towards me, crosses the pavement and says, "Give us your house, you blackie, give us your house, you nigger." That's what he said. Didn't really sink in what it was all about, just thought he was mad and drunk. During the 70s and 60s, if you were ever caught on the streets when there was a football match on, we knew the code. We knew that you'd be very stupid indeed to be around, because you would be lynched, you would be beaten, you'd be kicked, until such time that we got together in our numbers as West Indians, as Jamaicans, as people from the West Indies. We got together. We formed our own little communities. We got our own little partners going. We bought our own houses and became independent and said, no, this isn't going to happen to us. So I'm just saying this is time to say no. It's a disgusting situation. It's a disgusting time to know that we are supposed to have advanced in so many areas of technology and medicine, but yet the real criminals are the ones that we depend upon to look after us, whether it be within the realms or the ranks of the police or politicians. That's how bitter and bad I feel about this. My condolences to the family of this man, for him to have been beaten or to be pushed to the ground like that, and not just killed, but slowly, painfully murdered. Something has to be done, and we have to do it now.